So for the pea salsa, I've got some peas that I've blanched in lightly salted water, not overcook them, so they just need a couple of minutes maximum. Drain them and put them with some iced water just to stop them cooking immediately. So they've still got a little bit of a bite to them. And I'm going to pound them up with a bit of mint and spring onions and olive oil. So the good thing to do for that is grab yourself some mint. This mint's quite young and tender, so I don't need to take the leaves off the stalk. Just give it a bit of a chop until you can feel the resistance from the stalk, which is when the stalk just gets a little bit woody. Put that into a pestle, a little bit of salt, some spring onion. Just pull off the outside parts of the spring onions if they're looking a bit discoloured. I always chop off the end. Put these into the mortar and pestle as well. Add some extra virgin olive oil. Add half the peas, and all you want to do is just crush them a little bit, just to break them up so it doesn't seem like a whole lot of peas floating around. It's a nice kind of emulsified salsa. And then this just goes back into the whole peas. Bit of salt, and this just marinates for a while, and just before we serve it we're going to stir in some lemon juice, which gives it a real zing. Rest that, and now it's time to make the glaze. For the glaze I'm going to use rosemary, lemon, garlic and honey, and it's a lovely way to finish the meat, gives it a nice bit of colour, and the sweetness from the honey dribbles down into the vegetables, gives them a lovely flavour too. So just some rosemary leaves, some garlic, that one side, grab a grater and just take the zest off the lemon. If you can get unwaxed lemons, it's great to use them because they don't have any waxy coating on them. But if you can't get those, just wipe a regular lemon with a damp wet cloth, warm wet cloth. Grate the zest off. Juice it. Put the juice in with the zest. Beautiful aroma already from this. The garlic and rosemary. A squeeze of honey, nice runny honey. This is Manuka honey, which is from New Zealand, which is where the lamb's from, so I thought that was appropriate. Manuka honey is a great favourite honey back home. A little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. Put it onto full heat, and then what you want to do is just bring it to the boil and let it cook for about a minute until it's quite a light syrup. And this is the glaze that's going to be brushed on the lamb, adding a bit more flavour. So the glaze is nice and just a light syrup. The vegetables have been in the oven for an hour now, and I've turned the lamb twice already, so it's time to start glazing the lamb. Okay, let's turn the heat off. Use a pastry brush. Brush it on the meat. And the smells here are really lovely. The smells from the roasting vegetables, the lamb is just gorgeous, and then the garlic and rosemary that's going on here. Put it back into the oven. And I'm going to keep cooking this for about 20 minutes. I'm going to brush the glaze on every 5 minutes until the glaze is used up, and then the lamb's cooked. So at this point the lamb is cooked for an hour and 50 minutes. I've turned it 4 times on the rack in the oven, and for the last 20 minutes I was brushing the glaze on. So the lamb's beautifully cooked. What I need to do is just take it out of the oven. Look at that, it's looking gorgeous. Cover it loosely with foil and keep it in a warm place. And what this does is allow the juices to stay within the meat itself, so when you slice it, it's lovely and pink and juicy. Now what I need to do is just finish the vegetables. They're looking lovely. So give them a bit of a stir, nicely cooked. And all I want to do is finish them with some creme fraiche and yogurt. What I've done here is mix the creme fraiche and yogurt together. Provides a lovely acidity from the yogurt and a smooth kind of creaminess from the creme fraiche. They both can be cooked creme fraiche and yogurt. They don't curdle, which is quite handy. Stir it in to the veggies. And this goes into the oven. I put the oven temperature up to 190 degrees. It goes on the top shelf where the lamb was sitting. In 10 minutes they'll be ready, and it's time to serve the lamb. Give the veggies one last stir. So the pea salsa now just needs some lemon juice added. So that's like having a mint sauce with peas, but it's all served in the same thing. Quite a nice tasty thing to have. Just stir it all together. Taste for seasoning. Lovely. Now it's time to slice the lamb. Now the traditional way to cut lamb is that you cut it in a V shape. So you cut down on the bone this way, and then you cut this way, and then you do slices, and you cut the way against the grain. The grain, if you think of a tree trunk, the grain runs up the top of the tree trunk. By slicing against the grain, you make the meat a lot more tender. If you cut it with the grain, it can sometimes be a bit chewy. But what I like to do is to cut the lamb off the bone into manageable chunks, and then what I do is I just cut it through here. So it's a lot easier to handle. Lovely, and the aromas here are really, really good. So to plate up, just get yourself some of the lovely roast vegetables. They've got all that flavour from the lamb dripping down on them, the juices, the thyme, the honey and the garlic and everything. Lovely, and all the juices from the lamb themselves have gone down. So it's kind of made its own gravy in the dish. Place on some slices of lamb, and then just finish it with the minted pea salsa. And that is it. A dish that's slightly glamorous, a little bit complicated, but totally manageable, nutritious, flavoursome, a great dish, really tasty, and you and your dinner party guests will have a great meal.